I look at you and I say, it's because you're white and it's because you're trying to keep the man down. It's because your systems that you've created. If if I use that type of nuclear argument, we're going nowhere in the conversation. And you know why? Because I've just dropped the nuclear weapon and I've weaponized the language to be able to say, you now can't say what it is that you're going to say. It doesn't matter that my test scores are terrible. It doesn't matter that I'm not treating people well. It doesn't matter that I don't measure up in any type of justifiable scale with other people who are applying for the job. It's because you're white and you're not giving me an opportunity. And you know that we do not go down that road on this show or any other show. So when we begin to use language in such a way that it invalidates other people's ability to say what it is that they're going to say. So now if I tell you, if I'm having a conversation with Peter Bogashashkini and whatever his name is, and I tell him like you're a prideful, arrogant person. And he's like, well, you're a naive person because you believe in a book of fairy tales. Now we're on our way to a discussion. Now we've got actual clash. And the thing that makes us cowards is we don't want to clash anymore. We want to just throw up our skirts and we want to just be soft. We're soft ass men that are in the society and women who are just basically the love train for anybody that wants to lay on top of them. So we've become that as a society. It's hoflation on the status of women in a lot of situations in our society, and men are absolute cowards. But if I say that as a believer, there'll be other believers who are like, hey, you should temper your language and you should not talk about things like that because you should always be meek, always be mild. To hell with that. That's not why the Erskin Music Show exists. But let him say it. And now, because he's saying it in a scholarly way, people want to pay attention to him. I don't get it. Actually, I do get it. But let him say it. He's going to say it in a scholarly way, and you're going to go, was he actually right? Why don't more Christians talk like this? Listen to what he's about to say.
Well, the transubstantiation or whatever it is that you want to believe.
He just punched him. He's Catholic, and he said transubstantiation. He just went right to the heart of it. Oh, he's savage. He's savage.
Fight.
I love it. I love it when you punch the Catholics.
In the same way that we shouldn't have
a good deep cut. I appreciate it. Transubstantiation.
Well, I don't know what
You're
my first thought was Jesus walking on water, but okay. So
even better that a piece of bread becomes the actual body and blood.
Yeah,
Still
well, that's why I
really
thought
the
it, because it's the most crazy thing I can think of. But
it's a crazy sounding thing.
Yeah, not just sounding. But anyway, but the point. So even in that right
Listen to
there,
what it is
which
he's
was
gonna say.
important is that
Don't turn this
is
on
one
at
of the
this
things we've
point. Don't
lost.
be scared.
Like, I gave you a little dig. You took it in a good way. Nobody's ending their friendship. Nobody's like storming out of here. Like. That should be, we all have to live together in a society, right? We all have to get along with each other. And, we know each other a little bit. So I can rib you about that, or you can rib me about, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist, or, whatever it is. But I don't take these things personally. But we have taught generations of kids now that being offended is a virtue. That you should be offended. That if you're not offended, that you're a bad person. It's a kind of virtue signaling, and it's virtue signaling by proxy. I'm offended that you've said something to him, even though he's not offended. I'm offended on behalf of him. No, we got to let this whole offended thing go. It's just, this is a civilizational.
Can I talk to the white middle class women for a second? Would y'all just draw nigh for a second? White middle class women, your level of racial injustice. I'm hearing white middle-class women in society make arguments about the nature of what is happening to black people that black people are not even making. For some reason, you guys have become the champions of the social justice cause for black people. You are so deeply offended about all the things that have happened to black people historically that you now have become the voice of the black people. And sometimes I've even seen videos where you're speaking, these things are happening to our black brothers and sisters, and we are deeply offended by these things. And I'm going, who told her to say that? Who told her to speak on my behalf about what is offensive to me or offensive to black people or what black people are experiencing from their suburban middle class? Anyway, I digress. I'm gonna let him finish what he's saying.
Toxin, because that prevents discourse and dialogue. But again, the problem is we have people running around who simply don't believe in discourse and dialogue. We have people who are actively fighting against our institutions and the ability for us to retain
again and just unpack what he's
our
saying.
speech rights, our cognitive liberty.
All this tear everything down, tear our society down. We're not going to stand. All this university stuff that's going on, some of this nonsense is this pervading idea that's in our culture where we have all of this nonsense. I think you can chalk it up to the fact that people don't want to actually have a discussion that leads to a destination.
Liberties, our freedom of assembly, our freedom of press, even our Miranda rights, oddly enough. So the question is, what does it mean to be in a civilization? My answer to that question would be to uphold the liberties that all of us are afforded.
Okay.
And in order to do that, we have to have some basic consensus on how we should behave in the public square, how we should live our lives. You know, in Portland, I moved out of Portland, they ripped down the Abraham Lincoln statue.
Y'all know I like Lincoln, but we're going to get to that another day. I'm going to let him cook because he's talking about people in Portland. And listen, I'm going to try to schedule some shows over there because Portland needs Erskin music, and Erskin music needs to be in Portland because I just have some folks that I feel like I need to talk to.
Well, because of course.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was also, a lot of this is we have a bunch of thugs terrorizing our institutions. And
yes, just like we had punk kids back in the day, we still have punk kids. Thuggish, punk, rogue, never got their you-know-what whooped by their parents' kids that are out there.
They have their intellectual horsepower from people in the academies. But the larger problem is...
He's in academia and he's calling out like these rogue professors who are out there fueling these kids up, giving them these books, giving them these arguments and saying, yeah, you know, we gotta change society. We gotta change the mentality. We gotta change the thing. And you guys are the ones who have the energy and you're the ones who have the voice. And they're just gassing them up, just setting them up for failure, setting them up for mental health issues. This is Mental Health Awareness Month. We probably should say that as a part of this. But anyway, let him say it so he can get in trouble. But there's a lot more pastors that need to be saying things like this and Christians that need to be saying things like this. Let us get in trouble. I want that smoke.
We're in a situation now where cowardice is rampant.
Yes.
I mean, we have the mutilation of the genitals of children.
Sorry, my sound effect was in the middle of what it was that he was saying. He said we have the mutilation of genitals of children. Let him say it so I can, and I won't play the sound effect this time so you can hear him say it.
Genitals of children. We know from Schellenberger's W-Path. We know from the Tavistock. We know from the wonderful stuff Andrew Doyle's done, the coverage. We know from Bernard Lane in Australia, his stuff. We know that this is grotesque. We know that this is not evidence-based. We know that. And now even countries in Northern Europe are starting to ban these procedures.
We know scientifically that genital mutilation is scientifically abhorrent. Study after study after study, case study, country after country that is coming to the same conclusion. This is abhorrent. So why is it that we can argue for this type of gender dysphoria? And he gives it a different name here that I think is readily appropriate for Christians to be using this type of terminology.
But we have had an epidemic of cowardice. People were cowardly. They didn't speak up. Children who suffered from gender dysmorphia.
Gender dysmorphia. Not gender dysphoria, where they're just, I'm just confused. I don't know if I'm a boy or I'm a girl, so I'm just going to cut my penis off. Like, no, it's not that kind of thing. People in the academy, people in science know that this type of mutilation is harmful for people, but they won't speak up and they won't say anything and they won't get out of pocket. And listen, I wish we had more time to do this today. There's only a couple more shows that we have pre-record. I'm going to be in Boston next week, but then we've got some other things that we want to tie up. But man, I really want to have this discussion with as many people as I possibly can. I'm just going to cut this show up in some shorts and reels and just release it throughout the summer because we need to have this discussion. Why are there so many cowards who won't speak up? Gender dysmorphia. There's something wrong with people who are thinking this way consistently, but people won't want to say it.
Children who are now lifelong medical patients.
Lifelong medical
So what does
patients.
it mean to have a civilization? Is you have to have people in the civilization who think it's worth fighting for and who stand up for things and take hits, because you will take hits. You'll take hits on social media. You can
imagine someone might not like what Erskin Music is saying on his show. Bring it. I want that comment section to populate. And if you guys know who have commented on things that I've done in the past, I'll read the comment section. I'll put something in there. If I don't take you all that serious, I'll put something snarky in there. I just want to tease you out. If you write me a tome, I'll read through some of it, and then I'll write you a comment. I try to comment to everybody that comments in the comment section. It is not some robot. It is not my assistant. It is me that's commenting in the comment section. So if you don't like what Erskin Music is saying, maybe you'll listen to it from somebody who has credentials in academia, who's done all these different studies, who's read all these different research reports, and who's coming back and telling you the same thing that I would have been telling you had I read those things, and I didn't even have to read those things. We know these things referentially from the scriptures about what the nature of human beings is and what our purpose is in life.
Hey, kids from your friends, I can't tell you how many friends I've lost. You have to get beyond the epidemic of cowardice. You have to not be a coward. You have to stand up and fight when something is clearly false. However, you also have to couple that with one disposition, the ability to change your mind, the ability to revise your belief if incoming evidence shows that you were incorrect.